because you had brought up the grass before and the invasive species, and I didn't really
Correct.
comment too much on it because I didn't heard about that at
Yeah.
that point. And the in that particular episode, the Hawaiian fires were just one of several examples of wildfires all over the world right now.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't really probe you for it. I'm curious when you heard of that, did it go into colonialism at all and why those invasive species or how they even arrived on the island?
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean you basically covered it. I mean that's it's part colonialism. It actually starts back in like 1793 or so. Like it's like late 18th century, 19th century. It also has to do with immigration, and a lot of it actually has to do with the former plantations that used to be on Hawaii, namely pineapple and sugarcane.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and it brings up an interesting aspect of land ownership in this new era of awareness of ecosystems and how things collectively impact the climate and the planet and all of us, where you could buy a large piece of property, change it ecologically to be a plantation or a cattle ranch,
right.
ditch that effort, and then just allow the contamination to spread and have no real qualms about it because it's like what still within your borders, or even if it wasn't, how are you going to get sued because your grass starts growing on the other side of the fence? I mean,
Hmm.
there's no laws for that. So
That's
what
exactly
that
right.
does to the ecosystem is it doesn't tolerate drought well, becomes tinder for fuel,
Right.
and then the wildfires come and just burn it right up, and it's just going to grow back and happen all over again, except this time be worse because it'll continue to choke out the native plants, which are
Well, they're all gone,
they're
right?
they're,
Those are
they're drought tolerant, but once they're
yeah.
gone, they don't grow back
They don't grow
fast
back.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the other ones take over.
that's right.
And so, where's the accountability for that? It's almost like this new dynamic of accountability where, well, what have you done to the ecosystem?
Yeah.
And we have a little bit of that now. You can't
Hmm.
pollute. I mean, you're not supposed to under certain laws anyway. But this idea where I change the ecology, I got rid of the native plants, replaced it with something else, and then I'm even maybe abandoning this property. I still own it, but I'm not maintaining it.
Right. That's
I'm not
exactly what
maintaining
happened.
it in
Right.
any way that is not polluting or
Well,
that there isn't
I think
dangerous debris where if a kid goes there he's not going to get a nail in his foot or
no.
something, right? Like
Well,
it's
nothing's going to happen. It's not
we don't
visible.
even think about it this way,
Well,
right? It's
yeah,
like
exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not something that's with the, like you using the word polluting is fun. I like it. But it requires a level of educating the like our general consensus, like the general population as to how far pollution could go. Whenever we think of polluting, again, we always go back to the Captain Planet. It's like it's like a big oil spill. It's a it's some sort of leak into our
it's
waterways or something
chemicals.
that's
It's always a
chemicals.
chemical spill.
Exactly. It's
It's
always
some type of
chemicals.
chemical spill.
Right. We don't think of pollution in terms of, oh man, these ranchers left a whole bunch of invasive species that are now taking over the island. We just say that's a nuisance, right? You say that that's just something that is it's overgrown weeds. It's something that should be it's something to be taken back. It's like, all right, if it comes onto your property, you hire a landscaper to remove it. There are definitely there are always horticultural initiatives, within our state of Jersey, within the state of New York, where people are trying to replace some of the invasive species with more native species, but it's never a sense of urgency. It's never on the scale of what it needed to have been if we're talking about Hawaii. Again, like if you look at it as, oh, this isn't just invasive, this is pollution. This is a massive amount of pollution that has been introduced to this ecosystem, and it needs a heavy-handed approach to take it back and get rid of it. There were some reports, there were documents that were filed, I believe, at the city council of this town that while the scientists had said that, hey, there's probably a high risk of fire for this region, but it wasn't taken up. And the reason it probably wasn't taken up is because there probably wasn't a lot of resource or money that could be allocated by this local state government, this local government of this town, to be able to take on something as massive as that. Again, that this is we have so little money in this country for infrastructure, and this is a point where infrastructure has come back to bite to bite us in the patootie, right? I mean, that's what's basically happened here. This is a mismanagement of infrastructure to say you have derelict plantations with, and by the way, people, the grass that we're talking about, when you think about grass, you're thinking about like something that's like a foot tall, 2 feet tall. The invasive species grass in Hawaii could get anywhere. It grows like, it could grow up to 10 inches in a single night of rainfall, and it gets up to like 10 feet tall. So that's what we're
Oh,
referring to here.
wow.
This is 10-foot tall brush grass
It
on
dries out.
that dries out at the end of the season. And think about it. These are on derelict plantations, massive pineapple, massive sugarcane plantations. Most people have an idea of how big a plantation can be. You have a huge industry that has left Hawaii, and this land is just sitting there with 10-foot tall grass, dry, just waiting to be ignited. That's why the fire moves so quickly. That's why it just decimated. And it's so sad to think that people were living next to this. Again, it really is like pollution. It's like thinking of people who live in Cancer Alley in the Midwest, or the pig farming with all the feces and all the runoff of all of that stuff. You think about those people, you're always like, man, that's horrible. These people have lung cancer. They're got, it's hard to breathe with all this kind of pollutants in the air. And again, that's ignored. That's the thing. We can talk about that because that's ignored, and that's like egregious. Imagine living next to a tinderbox, and it doesn't affect your day to day. So no one thought about it, but it was just waiting to kill a whole bunch of people. That's so sad. That's again why infrastructure, while it's not sexy, is so vital to our society. And the fact that we spend more money on the military to go off and do whatever it is, talking about protecting America's interests. And I get it, I mean, this is not a knock, by the way, on individual military families. We're talking about the military industrial complex. We're talking about the billions of dollars that gets funneled off to say, fight the war in Ukraine with us, just sending trillion dollars. We're just sending money every time, but no one said, hey, why don't we send $1 billion to Hawaii to clean up all that brush that's just littered around these people's homes? How about we just send $6 million to fix this? That's
Buy back the property, rewild it.
Even if it wasn't bought back, I get it. That'd be fantastic to rewild it. But just to say, in one thing, you could go after the corporation, whoever owns it. You could have gone after the owner if there is an owner. I mean, that again.
But the thing is, what law are they breaking today?
Exactly. You have to completely reframe the way that we talk about pollution in order to have them break a law. You basically would have to put in that this invasive species is a mode of pollution, and you are polluting. But the idea that is ever going to come across the Congress is just like, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's so many issues that are on the back burner of this country. They're just sitting there. The last thing I feel anyone, maybe after this fire, maybe, the sad thing about a disaster is that after the disaster is hit, it's like damage done. It's like job done. It's like, let's just send relief efforts to help the people that are affected, but no one has appetite to pass new laws to say, hey, let's look around the country. Let's look around the rest of Hawaii and say, hey, is there anything else that is close to this? Is there anywhere else in our country that might have such a danger of invasive species? Maybe this is a contributing factor to wildfires elsewhere. There's no appetite to it. Because it's like, it's done. They're like, the fire's done. The people died. The humanitarian story is unfolding. And you just shift you shift it mostly to the humanitarian stories. You shift it to the people. You shift it to the 3,000 animals that are lost in the wilderness that needs, the vets are trying to save. You shift it to these things as opposed to the hardcore core of the meat of the issue here. And it's the meat of the issue is that we neglect infrastructure like it is the plague in this country. And it is, with climate change, it is starting to bite us. It is starting to bite us hard. And that's really where we need to that's the main issue. That's what we need to be addressing. And it's just not sexy enough to address.